Welcome everybody to Forza Motorsport 7, and today we're taking a look at the 1968 Holden Monaro GTS 327. Now this was Holden's new coupe that was introduced in July 1968, with this HK version lasting until June 1969 when it was eventually replaced by the HT. And yeah, this is a classic example of Australian muscle. It's actually the first 60s car that we've had from Holden. And yeah, I really like it. Quite frankly, this and the Kia Stinger are a joint first place for favourite cars from the Dell Gaming car pack. And yeah, it's got plenty going for it. I really like the styling. It's clearly influenced by American designs of the time, but it still looks pretty good itself, and a little bit unique on its own, so it separates from those vehicles. And yeah, it's actually got quad exhaust, which is something you wouldn't have seen in an American muscle car back in the day, certainly not in terms of cars on this game. And yeah, pretty spacious inside, as you would expect from such a large car, which obviously makes it a little bit more on the practical side. And engine-wise, it's a Chevy-sourced V8, 5.3 litres and 249 horsepower and 325 pounds-feet of torque, which certainly isn't as much as some of the muscle cars from that era, especially from America, but it's more than adequate, especially considering it only weighs 3,280 pounds, sorry. So doesn't weigh all that much, so it's got plenty of power for that kind of weight. Certainly doesn't weigh as much as some of the big heavy brutes from America at that time. So yeah, it's certainly not outclassed in terms of power when you take into account the weight. Obviously there are far more powerful cars than this from America. You've got cars with 200 horsepower more from around this time, but I feel that, you know, power isn't everything when it comes to cars like this, and certainly didn't stop it from being successful in terms of racing. It actually gave Holden its first victory at the Bathurst 500, and it also came third place in the Australian Touring Car Championship, so it was more than capable at racing, despite not having the most amount of power. Nonetheless, obviously being a bit of a track car and also a bit of a racer in its own right, it's going to take it out onto the track and see what it can do. So yeah, see it when we get there. Right, we're at Lime Rock West Chicane Circuit for 3 laps, just to see what this Australian muscle car can do. So yeah, got a sideways dial, as you can see there. Always love seeing one of them. And yeah, as you can see, it's not the highest of revving engines. Holden were actually planning on their own V8, but it fell behind on production and design, so it wasn't ready for when this car was supposed to launch, so they had to source a Chevy V8. But you know, it does the job. It's got plenty of power, a fair decent amount of torque, and like I said, because it doesn't weigh all that much, it's more than capable of shifting at a decent rate of speed. No, it doesn't have the best acceleration, 0 to 16 7.581 seconds, and 0 to 118.581 seconds, which is obviously slower than a lot of muscle cars from the 60s and early 70s from America, but it'd certainly give a run for the money the later 70s muscle cars like the Camaro, the Trans Am, etc. So not awful by any means, and its top speed of 137 mile an hour is certainly better than some muscle cars from that time with their shorter gears, whereas this has slightly longer gears, so it's a little bit better at the top end, which is obviously useful. Obviously none of this actually held the car back in terms of racing, like I said, winning Bathurst 500, which is a pretty momentous thing to do, quite frankly, considering how many laps you do in one race and how brutal it can be. Did fairly well. So yeah, this draws alongside, like I said, the Kia Stinger for being favourite from the car pack, and it really is nice to see another muscle car, not just from Holden, but a muscle car in general in the game that we haven't had before, because this is the first new addition to the Forza series in the muscle car division we've had for a while. Obviously we have had a few returnees from previous Forza games, like the Fairlane Thunderbolt and the Dodge WO23, but this is the first properly new one to the series for a while, and hopefully it's a sign of more to come, because this is a really solid vehicle. And yeah, I really would like more muscle cars. Obviously it's not the best in terms of handling, what you expect from a late 60s muscle car. It does roll around a bit, brakes aren't the best, there is a bit of understeer, of a lot of the weight. I think he's at the front. I didn't check, but I imagine it would be with a sizable V8 at the front. But nonetheless, it still shifts, as you can see. We're doing more than 100 mile an hour even on this short straight, despite the fact obviously of the most power of any car in the muscle car division. And Holden would eventually improve substantially with their later iterations. You could actually get a 350 V8 from a Chevy later on in the likes of the HT, which obviously would provide more power. And then the likes of the HQ Monaro, which is also on this game, would also provide more power and actually less weight than this. So this was clearly a good foundation for Holden to start off with, and clearly helped set the benchmark for their racing pedigree and also for their muscle cars on the road. So yeah, more than glad that this is in the game. Really am pleased with how many Holdens I have actually put in the last couple of Forza games, especially with lots of Forza Horizon 3 and this combined. We've had some of the best Holdens that we've ever had in a game from the Forza franchise, and yeah, it's really good to see a first ever Monaro on the game. Hopefully it means we can get some more from this lineup. But nonetheless, cracking car, and like I said, it does line up with the Kia Stinger as my favourite from the car pack. I imagine that's not going to be the case for plenty of people, because a lot of people have been kind of fanboying over the Bugatti Chiron, but for me personally, it's this Holden and the Kia that take the win for this car pack that it's from. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.